While we pay to keep our politicians fighting, how do we, the people, rise up and solve the great challenges of our time? We do it by embracing freedom and liberty. There may be no such thing as a free lunch, but this hour is as close as it gets. Welcome to A Free Solution.
All right, welcome to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thank you so much for joining us here on this wonderful Monday afternoon. We're live here on WYSL until 2 p.m. Give us a call if you want to participate in the show, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. Of course, if you're listening online on the Free Solution Facebook page, Free Solution YouTube channel, the Free Solution group, or one of the Kevin Wilson pages or Twitter account, leave us a comment. And if it's good, maybe I'll read it on air. Always appreciate the discussion and the insight that we get from the folks listening online too. And so today got a couple different things to talk about. So it's going to talk about the Queen and the Monarchy. I was going to talk briefly about that. I'm definitely not doing the whole show on that one. And we'll talk about TSA, and then hopefully get to talking about some health commissioner stuff, because here in Monroe County, Mike Mendoza is up for reappointment and whatnot. And I just want to talk about that because I promised I would talk about those things and kind of what health commissioners do and all that stuff. So, but real quick, I want to talk about the the Queen dying and whatnot. Again, I know it's like part of me when I hear this news is I'm like, who cares? Why does it matter? I like it's just one of those things I can't get like that excited about either way, right? Like there's some folks who are just, and it's strange, like Americans who are like, very upset with this. They followed the Queen as like, a taxpayer subsidized celebrity from another country. And, that's their thing. It's my wife's thing. Is definitely not my thing. Then there are other folks who are so mad, about this and the legacy of the British monarchy and blah, blah, and then I'm sitting over here like, I'm an American. Like, why does this matter? Didn't we fight a war to not have to care about this stuff? I mean, that's my thing. Again, of course, like, her family, I'm sorry for their loss and everything. That is always tough to lose someone. She lived 96 years. But it is such a strange thing to be, and it makes me, glad that we never ended up doing anything like that in the United States. So we fought a revolution specifically not to have, kings and queens, and now what you get over there, and still several other countries, again, these hereditary wealthy celebrity families that have no actual power. They live off of, the taxpayer dole, essentially. They get subsidized by their country. They continue to have wealth that was oftentimes centuries ago extracted from their country, and they have all these land holdings and other things that allow them to live a wealthy and lavish lifestyle. And the whole goal being, why does the UK keep the monarchy around? And anyway, like the whole general goal is like, well, okay, you have someone who is thinking about the health of the country beyond politics, right? Again, while there's no actual power there in the system that they have, they're supposed to kind of represent the country as a whole. They're supposed to be above the day-to-day political process, and that could be a tempting thing. People talk about splitting the executive here in the United States in a similar way, where you have like kind of a symbolic representational executive, and then like a functionary executive who runs the day-to-day bureaucracies of the branch. But yeah, that's not, again, to me, that's not a system that I'm fine with, like multi-executive systems, but having the taxpayer subsidized version that they do in the UK and many other European countries is wild to me. And yeah, I don't know why we do it, why they do it, but nonetheless, they have the system that they have. It's got a whole bunch of people riled up, and again, as I mentioned, the system, like there's a bunch of folks who are like, oh wow, like she left such a legacy of colonialism. I'm again not a perfect person, but probably not as powerful as you think. Like yes and no, but so because a lot of folks are like, oh, like look, look at all these places that are still commonwealths. There's the legacy of the British colonial system. I'm like, all right, you don't know about that. Like you don't know how that actually works, because there's a lot of countries that are still part of that commonwealth. They still, in theory, are part of the I don't know, it's the kingdom isn't the right word, but they're still part of the British system, and they get some benefits from that. They choose to voluntarily associate with that. They can leave if they want to. They just get some benefits in terms of, closer allyship, some military support, and different things like that, right? And so again, there's this complicated legacy of like what so many other countries, excluding the United States, which was at one point in time the colonies here were part of Britain, but broke off, earlier in their empire. And so many of these other countries are trying to figure out like what do they do? How do they feel about this person who is maybe not exercising the actual power of the both colonization process and the decolonization process throughout the world, but is still the symbolic face of that system that existed, right? It's such a bizarre thing to me. Uh and again, the thing that kills me too is just not only like the symbolism thing, which I can like sort of get. I think it's a bad idea, but I sort of get that. But it's more the wealth thing, right? All right, so we need this family, and we're gonna give them a bunch of money, and they get exempted from things like the wealth tax over there, right? Again, if you imagine we had something like that over there, okay, everyone, all you rich folks, you're gonna get 40% of the estate tax. You're gonna get 40% estate tax, except for this one family because like they're important for the national interest. All right, that doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem fair. Again, I'm not a monarchist, so if there is anyone who feels strongly, is give us a call 585-346-3000. But again, like the American in me is like, I don't get why you would do that. And then you have some of the uglier stuff too, like the scandals that are associated with this, and folks like Prince Andrew, who is buddies with, seems to be like close with folks like Jeffrey Epstein. Like I don't know, man, that's pretty ugly stuff. And like that wealth, that power kind of shields them from that, even though the system is antiquated. And even in that country, they recognize like the lack of political power that exists in that situation, yet they still hold on to it. And like it's a toxic mindset to me, right? Like again, we don't have this year. We could one day have something that looks like this year. Like it could evolve into something like that. People say like, well, we have all these political dynasties, these political families. We have, people accuse us of having an oligarchy, but it's far more unstable in this situation here, and there's far more choice among the populace now. Again, we did a whole show on democracy last Wednesday, and that's what, like, to me, like that's I'm still team small d democracy in most cases, right? Either we have the individual power, we have the individual choice, but if we are going to have some sort of political system in which we do need to make collective decisions or put leaders in place who can make some decisions quickly, having a small d democratic process for that, having a constitutional republic that has democratic elements still makes sense. And having the temptation even there of like, well, you still have this leader, you still have this hereditary family, you still have one person who could in theory assume power and direct all the national energy. That temptation is too great. It's too dangerous to leave that in the hands of any one individual or small groups of individuals. That's why I'm very much against the concentration of executive power in the presidency, something that, again, Joe Biden advanced, Trump advanced, the Obama administration advanced, George Bush advanced. All that stuff grew and grew and grew and grew that executive power. It makes it more likely that we're going to have a single person or a small group of individuals who exercise that power inappropriately and often have. So I do like the multi-executive system in many ways. People like the Swiss have like an executive council. It's an interesting way of doing things. Again, it disperses that power, disperses that decision making even further than it already is. To the extent we need those decisions made by someone else anyway, and for the most part, we shouldn't. It should be left to us. Most of the day-to-day decisions about what we do, what we put into our body, how we interact with others, as long as it's not hurting people or taking their stuff, those should be individual decisions. How we educate ourselves, how we educate our children, how we pursue our work. You're not hurting anybody, you're not taking your stuff. That's an individual decision. There does need to be some laws, there does need to be some rules in place. it should just probably be a lot less than what we have now. And for coming to those decisions, as long as you're respecting the individual liberty of the individuals involved in that system, having a democratic process for selecting the people who make those laws, get the details right, in theory, is a good idea. Now, does it work out perfectly? No, of course not. It's a mess. And we spend a lot of time in the show talking about what a mess it is. But it's better than what the alternative could be. The alternative could be, again, a single group of people, maybe competent, maybe incompetent, who make decisions on our behalf, regardless of what is right, what is popular, and what is going to deliver the best consequences. You don't know that any one leader or any one family will be able to do that for you. It's too dangerous to leave into the hands of a single individual or a single family. Anyway, that's my thoughts on that real quick. Again, it's such a strange thing, and it flowed interestingly with the show I did last week on democracy, and thinking about the system that they have in the UK, which is, again, a constitutional monarchy that is mostly democratic, right? But they still have this weird antiquated thing in place where it's essentially a taxpayer subsidized celebrity. Bizarre. All right. Well, thanks again for joining us here on the Free Solution. When we come back, I'm going to totally change topics. We're going to talk about TSA, and then we'll talk about the public health commissioner stuff. Thanks again for joining us here on the Free Solution. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Talk to you soon.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Hey, this is Kevin Wilson, host of A Free Solution. You ever needed a tool for just one project, but didn't want to spend the cash for something you'd use just once or twice? Well, there's a new tool library in Rochester where you can borrow just the thing you need instead of buying a new one. It's called the Tool Shed from the Southeast Area Coalition, and membership starts at just $25 a year. Use it for home projects or to support your business. Learn more and become a member at seektoolshed.org. That's SEAC toolshed.org.
Only available in the WISL store at WISL1040.com. Official top quality tees, hoodies, and coffee mugs depicting the colorful WISL logo or the already famous Mount Worstmore line of merch depicting Mount Rushmore style are for worst presidents. Of course, you know who is front and center up on that mountain. WISL official items make perfect gifts, or they're a great way for you to make a personal statement. Locally produced and sold only in the WISL store at WISL1040.com.
A free solution on the WYSL stations.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thank you so much for joining us here on this wonderful Monday. Give us a call if you want to participate in the show, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. Or leave your comment online. And, I got a comment from this anonymous Facebook user here. It says, I seem to remember something in history class about leaving that behind, something to do with 1776. Yeah, no, 100%. We did. Again, that's like the part of me, like the American in me is just like, none of this matters. Like it doesn't really mean anything. And we don't have to care about what happens to the British monarchy. Again, sorry for the family and whatnot, but yeah, like politically it doesn't matter. And I again, my wife like very much cares. She's like, oh my goodness, the Queen's passed, blah blah blah. But I'm like, I can't bring myself to care about it. And following the royal family drama, it's again taxpayer subsidized celebrity is kind of how I feel about the whole thing. And It doesn't matter. But we're going to switch topics a little bit. It's with September 11th being yesterday, I think I'd say the 21st anniversary of that attack. I always like to reflect not just on the moment itself, right, which was obviously awful, and it's weird to think like I didn't fully grasp the awfulness of it at the time because I was 11 years old, right? But obviously as an adult, I can get that and kind of understand the fear and panic and resolve that all manifested out of that moment. And we're still grappling with the policy implications that just a year ago, we finally left Afghanistan, a war that started because of the September 11th attacks. We went in to get Osama bin Laden. Took quite a while to do that, but we're still paying for that. Afghanistan is still paying the consequences of that, and it's now ruled by the Taliban once again. And we also have policies in place like the kind of unlimited authorization of use of military force that got put in place there, which gave the executive branch, as I mentioned, broad powers to go after anyone considered, to be harboring terrorists. And then we have things like the TSA, which is why I put it in my title, Abolishing the TSA. Again, we immediately after that, we created, an extra security agency in order to try to prevent this sort of thing from happening again, right? We want to make sure that no one can carry a weapon on board. And okay, that you can see why that happened, right? Like, it makes sense. Like you shouldn't be taking a weapon on a plane, right? There used to be, prior to the TSA, there was a handful of high profile, the plane hijackings, most of which ended with the plane landing somewhere and there being a negotiation of some sort, and that was it, right? Like that was what happened. But for the most part, most people traveled. You could go in easily. I'm told, and I don't really remember because I was too young. You used to be able to go right up to the gate and whatnot, but there's all these things that kind of came out of the TSA, most of which have been reactive, right? Like, why do we take off our shoes? Well, because some guy one time tried to put a bomb that failed in his shoes. So now we all have to take off our shoes. We've been doing that for whatever, like 20 years. I forget when that happened, but forever, right? Go through body scanners that can see everything. We go through, pat downs. We go through all this stuff. And at the end of the day, it doesn't necessarily keep us any safer. Again, all this stuff was reactive, like the liquid thing too. Same thing. Like, oh, well, what if someone could use that as, an explosive? What if someone could use that as a weapon? Right. Well, again, it is making people throw out their water bottles really keeping us any safer? Is making women throw out their breast milk keeping us any safer? Which is something that happened. They're supposed to be able to take it through, but it's something that happens frequently enough to be alarming. Like, why are we doing that to folks? Why are we doing that to mothers who, want to use that, who need that, whose children need that? And it's a misapplication of policy, but it's still something that can and does happen often. And all this stuff is to give us the illusion of safety. It's to, again, what I always talk about is what do politicians often do is they want to look like they're taking action on something. And this is like the quintessential agency in which politicians want to look like they're taking action without it actually doing anything useful and could be doing something harmful. It is expensive. It is a violation of our civil liberties, and it doesn't really keep us safe. It is security theater. And Gene on Facebook says, I think the TSA was created to make people think that our politicians care about us. Yeah, no, that's what it's people were terrified after September 11th, understandably so. And so the response to that is like, well, we have to do something to make people feel safe. Can we? And we do something to make an agency specifically created to make sure that someone can't take a weapon on it. Again, what was the weapon used? The box cutters. Yeah, not anything all that crazy. And we did other things to make sure that that specific hijacking scenario couldn't happen again. The pilots are locked in. At the end of the day, you can't really get into where the pilots are. That's secured. You add security to the flights. Okay, great. That if you have air marshals, that's one other thing that you could do in this situation. People are also more aware of, like, again, part of the response in a hijacking situation is, okay, you don't want anyone to get hurt. People didn't think that that's what was going to happen in that situation. They thought it was going to be a hostage situation where you might land until, and you see this with like the Flight 93 stuff. They started to figure out, like, oh, that's not going to happen this way. We need to fight, or we're going to die, and we're going to, this plane will be used to hurt other people. And that's, why they fought back, because they started to realize what was going on wasn't the type of hijacking that they had seen before. It wasn't going to be a hostage situation. And so people are aware of that. People have we have air marshals now that could be on flights. We have secured pilots. What additional work must the TSA do? And again, is that trade-off worth it? Is it worth it to go more than to have more than just a metal detector, which they do in many other airports around the world? That's really all they have. Just to have that type of thing. It's not as intrusive. You're able to, again, take liquids on a plane with you, and it has all these like weird, knock-on effects, right? Like, why is it so expensive to go and buy stuff in an airport? Part of the reason why is because you can't just go back out. You don't have any other options. Like, why is it so expensive to buy a bottle of water in the airport if you don't, remember to bring your metal or plastic bottle with you? You're a captive audience. You can't just walk out and leave and grab something else or bring stuff with you. You got to buy it there. They charge accordingly. And same with, food stuff too. You can't bring that stuff in. Okay. So because you're a captive audience, you don't want to go out and then have to go through security again because you don't know if it's going to be quick. They're able to charge you more. And like, if you look at the prices of airport food and drinks, pre and then post TSA, it's wild how much, that has happened. Like, how far beyond inflation, that's gone. And it's because we have this thing now that's we are forced to go through this, security theater and can't reasonably leave. You could leave, you could step out, but again, you're gonna have to go back in line. You don't know how long it's gonna take, and again, it's gonna be weird if you go back out and then come back in too. They're probably gonna give you an extra look for doing that, so you don't want to do that. So you're just gonna overpay for what you have in the airport. Strange effects of that, and the big thing. and yeah, I'm gonna read this other comment from Patricia on YouTube. It says a broken plastic spoon or a stiletto heel could be used as a weapon. If someone wants to do something, they will. Yeah, no, there's all sorts of stuff you can do. You can't create a perfect state of security. Should there be a metal detector? Should you have to have weapons secured and stuff? Like, yeah, okay, that all seems fairly reasonable to me. I don't think even the most, correct me if I'm wrong, but I even think the most like staunchly Second Amendment person would be like, yeah, it's a good idea for everyone to have guns on planes, because you don't really want those going off in a pressurized cabin. That seems like a bad idea for a lot of reasons. But okay, so like, have that stuff. Okay, you can't carry a gun on a plane with you. That needs to go in your check bag. Other than like, security, but even then, it feels kind of iffy to me. But if someone's determined to do that, and again, people are able to sneak through actual weapons too. That they had a ton of it, but most of what they confiscate, I think there's a picture of, it might have been the Syracuse TSA, like, and they're like, oh, look at all the stuff we confiscated, and it's just like toys, small bottles of alcohol, bottles of water, like all sorts of stuff. Why are we taking this from people? What good is this doing? Is it actually keeping us safer? No, absolutely not. Not at all. Thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. We're going to be back in just a few minutes. Give us a call if you want to participate in the show, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. Be back in just a few.
Pray for the USA. AM 1040 Avon Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, and FM 95.5 Spencerport.
Here's the latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center for tonight. We'll see mostly cloudy skies, a couple of showers, maybe a little drizzle out there. Temps around 60 on Tuesday. Still a touch unsettled. We'll have mostly cloudy skies, chance for a couple of showers or a thundery downpour, especially into the afternoon as the system finally begins to clear out. Better weather will arrive on Wednesday, sunshine, less humid in the 70s. I'm Rich Cornelia, WYSL.
With energy costs on the way up, you want to keep cool and comfortable inside, and the sizzling heat and humidity outside. When you keep air-conditioned air inside, you'll keep more of your money in your wallet. Chamberlain Construction reminds you, even if your home is relatively new, insulation technology has advanced rapidly, no matter whether your home or other building is recent or historic. Consult with Chamberlain about an insulation upgrade to save on energy. And whatever your need, they can handle it. Commercial or residential, roofing, siding, kitchens, baths, decks, porches, remodeling, bump outs, garages, with the best in materials and workmanship, over 30 years of reliable, ethical experience anywhere in the region. Now's the perfect time to get your important project underway. Call Chamberlain Construction Dansville, 370-5959, 370-5959. Contact Lee Chamberlain at lee@chamberlainconstruction.com. That's Chamber, L-I-N.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
WYSL. You can leave a legacy in our community. Please consider a planned gift to Camp Good Days and Special Times. Camp Good Days has been a source of hope and support for our community. Your planned gift can help ensure that the camp will always be here for the children and adults who need us. Learn more on our website or call Camp Good Days and Special Times at 585-624-5555 and ask about planned giving options.
What's growing on your carpets? Carpet may hold up to 200,000 bacteria per square inch. That's about 4,000 times more than your toilet. Professional carpet cleaning with hot water extraction is one of the most effective ways to rid your home of bacteria, dirt, and germs. Call Lima Carpet and schedule your carpet cleaning today. 226-2180. That's 226-2180. Lima Carpet staff will do it right, guaranteed.
2-room special, $129. Call for details.
Rethink your relationship with barbecue. Johnny B's Custom Barbecue in Lima brings Southern hospitality to the crossroads of Western New York, where all the barbecue is fresh off the smoker and nothing is reheated. Enjoy live music, including open mic nights, in their historic dining room with original tin ceilings and our nation's founding documents proudly on display. Dine in or take out Wednesdays through Saturdays, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. or until sold out. Just north of the Four Corners in Lima. For the most authentic Southern cuisine, it's got to be Johnny B's.
While many local collision and repair shops have been gobbled up by national chains with their impersonal touch, Flower City Collision remains locally owned and operated. The shop was started by a local veteran who taught his son Zach the basics in customer service and providing customers value. Flower City doesn't work with a specific insurance company. They want to be your advocate. If you need a repair, reach out to Zach at Flower City Collision in Henrietta. He will work with your national insurance company on your local behalf to ensure you get the repair you need done right.
Mitchell Pearson Jr. Realtors Incorporated was founded in 1972 to offer comprehensive real estate services throughout the greater Rochester and Finger Lakes areas. And Mitchell Pearson will touch numerous nonprofits, including the United Way, Pittsford Volunteer Fire Department, the New York Warrior Alliance Wounded Warrior Program, Mercy Flight, and the Challenger World Series. They truly live up to their motto. Attention, care, effort, integrity have always been the cornerstone of their approach to helping you. Remember the name, Mitchell Pearson Jr. Realtors.
A free solution on the WYSL stations.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host today. Thank you so much for joining us here on WYSL. We're here live until 2 p.m. Give us a call if you want to participate in the show. That's 585-346-3000, 585-346-3000, or leave your comment online. Right now, we're talking about the TSA, and I don't know, I'm in favor of abolishing TSA. This isn't even what I'm waffling about. Like, no, 100% abolish TSA. We do not need it. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But first, a comment from John on Facebook. It says, TSA opened the door to a new type of airline. Naked Air solves the whole issue of needing metal detectors and stopping the frisk you. John, don't give the government any ideas. No. I just thought that was funny. And they have the scanners that can see all of you. So, they don't need to do that. They'll just scan and and do creepy things. Like there's the agents who are caught like flagging, good looking passengers for extra pat downs and stuff. That's part of the abuse that can happen. You don't know who's going to be hired when you create this system where you have power over people. There's going to be people who are tempted to abuse that power. You can't always weed out folks who are going to be gross or inappropriate or even assault someone in these situations. And I think it's also a dangerous mindset to come in assuming like every single American could, or not even American, every single passenger going onto a plane could be a terrorist, and then we have to just like scan you preemptively just in case, instead of doing things like looking at their behavioral cues, having some really simple again metal detector type of stuff, which is what used to happen prior to September 11th, and taking other precautions. As I had mentioned, I think it does make sense to secure the pilots, to occasionally have security on flights, that type of stuff. I get it. I can get by with that a little bit better, but it creates all these negative consequences. Not just the petty stuff that I talked about, like more expensive food and drink, but also more serious stuff where people are put into situations with potentially abusive behavior. And again, it's not keeping us safe either. When they've tested this, something like 70% of like the fake bombs, guns, explosives, and whatnot that people have tried to get through, they don't catch them. It's just 70% when they've tested them. Like their failure rate is absolutely abysmal. So okay, if this isn't even effective, what are we doing it for other than security theater, other than looking like we're doing something to keep you, the passenger, safe and to reassure people that like flying is a safe experience, which it is. The terrorist attacks are very rare, even in places that don't have this type of system, and it's generally safe to fly. It's probably safer than driving in most cases. And and again, in terms of the effectiveness thing too, and I'm reading an article now on Reason about this, and something like 90% of people say they've snuck something through, some not allowed item through security. Usually I'm sure it's like a liquid type of thing, right? Like you're able to get some bottle through that probably shouldn't have been allowed. All right, but again, if you're able to do that, if average people are able to do those things, they have gotten stuff through either on purpose or on accident, right? What are we doing here? How does this even make sense anymore? Why are we still going through this illusion of safety? All it does is create problems, cost massive amounts of money, not just the money spent on the TSA, which is certainly a thing, but also the money spent, or the time that passengers now have to spend not doing other preferable activities because they need to take the time to wait in line to get checked by security and then be in the airport a couple hours earlier than they might otherwise do because they have to go through this security process. So yes, I'm in favor of abolishing TSA. And you say, Kevin, well, oh my goodness, our planes could be unsafe, our planes going to be unsecure. No, that's not at all how that would work out. Airports would have different levels of security. It would go back to what it was before, where airports did have still security, and some airports would choose to have, more robust security features than others. Some might have, just metal detectors, and some other folks who make sure to watch if anyone's being weird. And then others might keep what is in place now. And each individual airport can decide what makes sense in this situation. This is what we did before. How do they keep the people in the airport safe? How do they keep their planes safe? Airlines might have their own procedures, and they say, okay, well, we, in order to partner with this airport, feel like we need to have this level of security and safety and screening before, we can partner with you. Between the market and the entities that run airports, they can figure this out. I'm confident of that. And again, some of them might settle on something that is a little bit more streamlined, and some of them might settle on something that's a bit more robust. And we can negotiate what that is. And we can do that without spending massive amounts of taxpayer dollars on it. And that's kind of nice. Like, we won't have to spend a bunch of money on it. The companies will figure it out. The companies can help pay for that security as well, as they ought to, instead of it coming from taxpayers who may or may not necessarily even use those services or want those services. Okay, that's you get to decide what the conditions are, and you as a consumer can also decide, like, well, all right, if the Monarch County Airport requires this, but the Syracuse Airport requires this, say the Syracuse one is a little bit easier to get through. Okay, maybe I'll choose to go on flights through those. Right, that is your choice, and you can have some rules. I'm sort of in favor of abolishing the FAA too. I don't think it's as necessary as people think. I remember going to like a forum. I'm trying to remember who it was. I remember it was like some local city council person talking about, like, oh yeah, we need this thing just like we need the FAA, because without the FAA, how would we even fly planes? What people, you think without the government telling them what to do, they wouldn't be able to fly planes? Like, they wouldn't know how long to make the runways. They wouldn't know how much speed to get to take off. Do you think that the government is the only one who can figure that stuff out? Of course not. People can figure it out on their own. In other countries, including, like, I think Canada, they have like a much more decentralized system. There's some standards for how you operate airports and airplanes and all that stuff, and air traffic control, all those things. But it's overall decentralized. Again, should be paid for by the people consuming those services themselves, but through added fees at airports or through, the charges on tickets. Okay, cool. Do that thing. And then it's decentralized. It's managed by the airports or the counties or whatever. And in negotiation with the airlines themselves. These folks are experts. This is what they do all the time. And they want to make sure that you as a passenger feel safe too. So they have a vested interest in making sure that all this stuff works and that you stay safe throughout that process. We don't need the government telling us what to do. We don't need to spend a boatload of money having the government decide all this stuff for us and then maybe get it wrong anyway. And the TSA is a perfect example of that. You have this one policy that goes through to all these places, which is even applied consistently. Again, you do get some situations where you go through an airport and they're like, all right, don't take off your shoes, just go through. And like, okay, great, cool, I guess. In other places, they're like, nope, you gotta take off your shoes, you gotta do this, take off all this stuff, blah blah blah. And it's a whole intensive process, and they want to pull apart your bags and stuff. And all right, that's interesting that you're doing that. And between the wild inconsistency, the ineffectiveness, the expense, the possibility for harassment and assault, and the time it takes for us to get through this, we need to abolish the TSA. That's how it is. And that same process, that same level of abuse and expense is something that we should apply to so many other agencies too. But 22 years after September 11th, and having the distance from the event, the fear is still there. Again, it was an awful nation-changing moment. But now, with the time to reflect on what makes sense and what doesn't? Can we re-examine this issue? And I think we have to. We have to re-examine so much of what we did in the immediate aftermath of September 11th to say, like, here's what we could actually do to learn from this. Here's what we can actually do to keep safer. And here's the stuff that we did out of fear and does nothing to substantially keep us any safer. And all it does is cost money, cause hassle, and do nothing but provide security theater. That's TSA. Again, abolish them. All right, so that's all I got on that. And when we come back, I'm gonna switch topics a bit. We'll talk about some public health stuff, and give us a call if you want to weigh in on any of that stuff, abolishing the TSA and whatnot. Give us a call, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Talk to you soon.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Hey, this is Kevin Wilson, host of A Free Solution. You ever need a tool for just one project, but didn't want to spend the cash for something you'd use just once or twice? Well, there's a new tool library in Rochester where you can borrow just the thing you need instead of buying a new one. It's called the Tool Shed from the Southeast Area Coalition, and membership starts at just $25 a year. Use it for home projects or to support your business. Learn more and become a member at seektoolshed.org. That's SEAC toolshed.org.
Hi, Bob Savage here with a boost and good news for business owners and managers. We know it's been tough sledding with government working against you post-pandemic, so we've come up with a low-cost ad package, and for a limited time, once you're a WYSL advertiser, we'll run a bonus that's free extra schedule for job openings you're trying to fill. We'll feature your business and describe the positions you have open, all at absolutely no charge. At the WYSL stations, we're not just the voice of liberty, we're the small business friend. Call 346-3000 for details. All major credit cards welcome.
A free solution on the WYSL stations.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson today. We're talking about abolishing the TSA. Talked about the monarchy a little bit earlier too. It sounds like we have a caller on the line. Keith is on the line. Keith, welcome back to A Free Solution.
You're a good guy. You bring up an interesting proposition, by example, getting rid of TSA. But I just want to ask a fast question, whether it's any government oversight regulatory agency. Now, sir, how do we do that? You've thrown the question out there. Realistically, because it's not just TSA, it could be anything the government does that, gosh darn, just in finality will not go away. How in reality do we move this forward? I don't want to have the get bogged down in the controversy to say to TSA, but just anything in the government. My question for everyone in the audience, once it's in place, it's a dickens to get rid of. And that's what I'm asking politely of you, Mr. Wilson. How do we get rid of any of these burdens that the government pushes on us, the public? But then bottom line, sir, it never goes away. And that is my succinct question.
Yeah, I mean, you ain't wrong, Keith. You know, once we have a government agency, it sticks around for a very long time. It's not totally impossible to get rid of government agency. It has happened before where we've wound down involvement. In fact, specifically in flight, because like the what was it? It used to be called like the was it Civil Aeronautics Board? I'm trying to remember what it was called, but the airline industry used to be far more regulated, and then under the Carter administration of all places, they loosened up a bit, and it allowed a lot more freedom in terms of the airlines to be able to offer different packages to folks and to create new routes and whatnot. And so it's been done before. It can happen. It's just a matter of finding the right place to apply pressure in within the political system, right? It's winning those champions in Congress, getting people to see the uselessness and the waste and the potential for abuse within the TSA. And so winning those champions in Congress, in the federal bureaucracy, and whoever ends up running for president next, those are all things, and it's tough because again that's so far away from us, the average citizens, and there just needs to be a critical mass where there's political consequences for not dealing with this problem, and building that critical mass is tough because there's the loud advocates at the TSA who want to preserve their jobs, and they're gonna say that like without them there would be chaos, there would be violence, there would be hijackings, there would be all sorts of stuff that would go on, and it's overcoming those very difficult forces in order to do it.
Question for those of you in the Libertarian Party, would this really become part of your platform as a way of enhancing your image before the public? Because even I, as a conservative, not necessarily putting down because I'm registered conservative, my party, but would you libertarians do this as a way of flagging the attention of the public? Hey, if no other party will do it, we libertarians will do the heavy lift in getting rid of these oversight government agencies, services, everything that we really don't need, as you, Mr. Wilson, was good enough enunciating during your presentation. Would, in closing, the libertarians truly pick that up as part of their platform and really differentiate yourself from other political parties?
100%. And if you look at most libertarian candidates running for federal office, they do talk about this, right? And again, it's just a matter of like what gets picked up, what gets talked about, what's salient at the time. But when I ran for Congress in 2020, I talked about like, well, where can we realistically cut the federal budget and make sure we give freedoms back to people, and what agencies could be eliminated. TSA was one of the ones I talked about frequently. It's just a matter of whether or not that is a good enough reason to vote for you. And part of the libertarian strategy is like, well, maybe that isn't a big enough reason to vote for a libertarian candidate, but if there's enough groundswell of support for that candidate, maybe a Republican or Democrat picks it up too. And that's kind of the hope, right? It's like either vote for a libertarian, you talked about serious reforms and making sure that we protect our liberties, or the Republican or Democrat will have to pick it up in order to gain that support, and then they have to carry through with it, which they don't always do. But that's kind of the strategy. But I would say again, to kind of go back to your original question, Keith, is I would say most libertarian candidates at the federal level would specifically be in favor of abolishing the TSA, and I'd be hard pressed to find a candidate who isn't.
Okay, well, you talked well. You're a good guy. Hopefully, in reality, realistically, it comes true. So hopefully, in your case, libertarians would follow through in good faith. And thank you for the talk. So thank you. Bye.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for a call, Keith. I always appreciate it. You always keep things entertaining. And that's can talk to libertarian candidates. Make sure you check out their platform. When I was running, that was part of it. There's, I talked about agencies that we could reform, agencies that we could abolish, and how do we get back to what is both a realistic federal government? Because there's some folks who can be like, yeah, like let's abolish everything. And I wasn't one of those guys. I want to talk about like, well, what can we actually accomplish? And I think that is the most realistic and tangible goal of like abolishing agencies is the TSA, because I think it's not popular, and people kind of recognize its problems and its lack of success, and for that's a good opportunity to get an easy win. You don't have to solve everything all at once. As I'm trying to remember the guy's name, but as one of the former chairs of the Libertarian National Committee told me once, he's like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? And that's my advice to like the libertarian advocates out there who are serious about getting stuff done is we need to find wins where we can. I don't think that we're gonna get everything all at once, and many of the folks, even who are libertarians themselves, but many of the folks who are independents, conservatives, Republicans, Democrats, whatever, they're not going to be in favor of that. And even if you do have a radical vision for a much smaller government, you're not going to win with that message alone, because people don't care. People care about the consequences. People care about the outcomes. People care about being safe. And you need to address those concerns in order to do that. And if you can talk about like, well, what's the actual outcome here? Is this keeping us safer? It's just costing us a lot of money. It, in some ways, exposes people to danger. Okay, then you can start to win folks over. So that's my advice for the libertarian folks out there as someone who ran a campaign, maybe not successful, but my goal is to not necessarily win, but make a difference on the message. And I think one of the goals of the Libertarian Party is not just winning every time, but also changing the conversation. Speaking of changing the conversation, I did intend to spend a little bit more time this show talking about this thing. I was going to talk, because a bunch of people have been asking me about, like, well, what do you think about, Mike Mendoza being reappointed and public health commissioner? And my quick thought on that is, and I mentioned this on the previous show, is that the public health commissioner has probably a lot less power than some people think. Most of what they do is just give policy advice and direct funds to address what the county has deemed as public health issues. So it could be disease outbreaks, or it could be, obesity, or whatever it is, right? And they usually don't have the power at the county level to do things like shut down schools or shut down restaurants. They would probably might make a policy recommendation to do that with a county executive or whoever does actually have the power to do those things. I mean, they do have some ability in some cases to get involved with the hospital and healthcare systems, just probably a bit less than you think. And I don't have time to fully get into that for this show. That being said, like, one way we can depoliticize this is to just make county health commissions not a publicly appointed position, but to just make it a commission of, an advisory group, which it already kind of is, an advisory group of private individuals who make policy recommendations to the county, and have the distribution of resources to combat public health efforts just come through that instead of through an official county agency. That's one solution to this. That's one way to depoliticize like this type of stuff, which has gotten politicized, in part just because of the polarizing conditions of COVID, and also in part because of decisions made by more activist county and state level health commissioners throughout the country. And yeah, but the big thing is like, yeah, I'm not in favor of that type of appointed person being able to exercise actual power of us beyond recommendations. And I've said the same thing at the county level, the state level, say the same thing about the CDC as well. That's what it is. And yeah, and again, I see another, a comment coming in real quick. I have like 30 seconds to stress it. Sean says, 100% in favor of eliminating TSA and moving airport security to private companies. Why do we need a federal agency to protect airports? We don't. And he says, because they stink at it. Yeah, not the exact words, but thanks for the comment, Sean, and thanks for the call, Keith. Thanks for all the comments today. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. I will be back on Wednesday. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, folks. Take care.